What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today I want to talk to you about patience. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I am not the most patient person. And in fact, patience is something that I struggle with to this day. And it's a lesson that I'm learning literally as we speak. So I'm going to drop some news on you guys. I am currently working with a production company for some TV shows, 2 TV shows that I'm fortunate enough to be able to work on. These TV shows should be out viewable on networks. More news on that later in late 2022, 2023. But it's been a really, really difficult process. It's been a huge learning experience for me. The way that it happened, so somebody discovered my work, contacted me and said, we want to think about working with you in TV. And we had some meetings on Zoom. I flew out to LA and we had some meetings. And then they offered me a contract. And I read the contract, it's kind of legally written, so I can't understand it. I don't know what this means or what that means or what the implications are of this or of that. So I hired an entertainment attorney. They're amazing, and allow them to start negotiating with the production company for the final details of my contract. It's so hard because I see the emails, like they CC me on the emails going back and forth, and the production company puts this in the contract, and then my attorneys amend and change this and send it back, and then they send it back and go back and forth. And I got to a point where I was getting frustrated and I was getting impatient because sometimes I get led by my excitement and my enthusiasm, and I could feel myself saying, I don't even care what's going on in this contract. I just want to sign it so we can move to the next stage of working on the TV show, and so that we can put this part behind me. I could feel myself saying, who cares what's in the contract at this point? It's been however long you guys have been going back and forth working on these details. I'm done waiting. I'm out of patience. I'm being led by my excitement and enthusiasm, and I just want to sign it. And I ended up talking to someone, this process has been amazing. I'm getting to meet extraordinary people. And I talked to someone who's really well known in Hollywood, kind of a famous person, and talking about how they first worked on their first deal. And they were telling me, you got to let your attorney be your pit bull, is what they said. You got to let your attorney be your pit bull and let them do their job. And they were explaining to me that if you just wait and let them do their job, however long that takes, you're going to be so glad that you waited. If you sign it now, there are going to be things happening down the road, like your TV show will get picked up in syndication, and you're going to go from one TV show to the next TV show. And as things get bigger and bigger and bigger, you're going to realize that you're so glad you allowed your attorney to work out the details, that you need to just sit in your patience. And I sat there and I thought, I have a choice here. Instead of being led by my excitement, instead of being led by my enthusiasm, I can be led by wisdom and follow the guidance of someone who's been here before. Because I know logically that they're correct. Years down the line, who knows what could happen? This TV show could be, or one of these TV shows could be a really big deal, and everybody watches it and all kinds of stuff going on. And I don't want to be angry or resentful that I haven't signed the best deal and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And the whole point of this process is to make sure that I'm very happy and I'm very comfortable with the deal that I'm signing. And I think that's the lesson there, is sometimes it requires patience to keep yourself in the best situation. And I'm admitting to you, this is hard for me. I'm a super energetic guy. I'm a super enthusiastic guy. I tend to want to just go forward and go fast and just keep moving. But sometimes it's important and it's good for you long term to just sit and let things unfold and let the people around you do what they're supposed to do to keep you in a good situation. And, learning how to be patient for me is a lifelong journey, and I'm still on that journey as we speak. So I want to ask you to think about how you learned that patience was an important virtue and what you're doing to be sure that you are allowing yourself to be led by logic and good choices instead of enthusiasm, instead of excitement, instead of immediate gratification over long-term gain. I want you guys to think about that stuff. Hey, thanks so much for being here today. Once again, if you wouldn't mind, please do me a really huge favor, and I'd love it if you'd share this podcast with at least one person that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to this podcast, or anywhere else you listen to your podcast. Go there and subscribe. Please rate this podcast, leave feedback on this podcast, and I will see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And today I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the life lessons I learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today I want to talk to you about patience. And like I said yesterday, patience isn't something that I come naturally to. It's just not part of my way. I tend to be a very impatient person. I tend to be a very, want it now kind of person. But I've learned patience over the years through my work. I'm going to give you kind of two different pathways that have led to patience being a bigger part of my life. The first pathway is I like to achieve goals, and I want my goal now. Like, I want to achieve the thing like now and right away. And it just doesn't work that way. Like, I opened my therapy practice in the fall of 2007, and I wanted very much to open my practice, have 1,000 clients, and be off and running. But that's not how it works. Like, you have to make the right choices. You have to be deliberate about the way that you do things. And some goals take time, and that's a good thing. I can honestly look back and tell you, in the fall of 2007, if I opened my office and then right away I had a flood of, thousands of clients, I wouldn't have handled it well. I wouldn't have appreciated the process because it took a while. That was actually a good thing because I was prepared and I could spend the time necessary to market my therapy practice appropriately, to make the proper contacts. Like, you have to spend the time doing something right. Eventually when I had the type of therapy practice I could live off of, and I had built such a wonderful infrastructure within my business that I could dedicate my time to other things like writing books and building a speaking and lecture career and doing the other things that kind of give my soul satisfaction and fill me up in that way. But if I had rushed, that wouldn't have been true. And I think another area where I've learned patience is just being a therapist. It's just necessary to be patient. Part of what I do is I ask people questions where they can start to answer questions and begin to think about life in a different way and think about themselves in a different way. And that's a really hard job because very often change is not instantaneous. Change takes time. And I literally have to be patient and allow the client to answer the question I just asked them. There's a lot of times where you ask clients a question and it's almost like I want to jump in and answer for them because to me, the answer is obvious. But in all honesty, who cares if the answer is obvious to me? It needs to be equally obvious to them, which means the client has to take a moment to think. Occasionally, the client has to take a moment to just process their own thoughts in relation to the question that I asked them. And I've had to learn to sit patiently and quietly to allow them to process in their own thoughts so they can get to where they'd like to be. I think the biggest mistake that we make in relationship to having patience is we try to do things on our own specific timeline. In essence, we try to rush. Like, we want everything now. I can remember patience was something that you had to have a generation ago. For example, to rent a movie now, all I have to do is go to Amazon or go to Netflix, go to Hulu, and you literally just press play and there's the movie. But a generation ago, we had to go to Blockbuster Video, and let's say there was a movie you wanted, and the computer says, we don't have the movie in store, but somebody's going to bring it back today. I used to work at Blockbuster Video, and there were times that people would stand around for an hour waiting on the movie they wanted to show up. But we live in a world now where you can be impatient because all of our needs are met at the point at which we have the need. And I think sometimes we have to take a step back and realize that patience is a muscle that needs to be exercised. And patience is part of the ingredient that helps us to build happy and successful lives. It helps us to put things in place in an appropriate way. And it helps us to dedicate time to the process and not just the outcome. So because we live in a world of such immediate gratification, patience is something we have to practice. So what I want you to do is just look for opportunities to be patient and exercise that muscle. I promise it'll benefit your life and help you achieve even more. So hey everyone, thanks so much for being here today. If you wouldn't mind, do me a huge favor, a really huge favor, and share this podcast with at least one person that you think could benefit from this message. And also don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts where you can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave feedback, rate this podcast, and I'll see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today, I saw something that I think illustrates the idea and the power and importance of patience more than anything that I've seen recently. It's a story about an athlete. It's a story about a quarterback who plays for a team called the Green Bay Packers. It's really, really incredible. So listen, the biggest mistake that I see people make as they're working on achieving goals is they think that the achievement of a goal is a sprint and not a marathon. When you're achieving something that's meaningful to you, when you're working towards something that's meaningful to you, you have to take time and put it to the side. You have to realize, I'm going to work at this until I get it. And there's this guy, his name is Kurt. Like I said, he's a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and he has been on the team, but he's not been one of the players that gets to dress and participate in the game. Like when you have professional sports, you are on the team, and in the NFL, they call it practice squad. You only get to practice with the team. Like you don't get to get dressed in the locker room and run out of the tunnel and play in the game or even stand on the sideline unless you're like a really good quality player. So this guy, Kurt, he's been a practice squad player for years. Literally, he put on his Twitter for 1,319 days. He's been in the league for 1,319 days. And this upcoming Sunday is going to be the very first time he gets to participate in the game. It's going to be the very first time he gets to get dressed and run out of the tunnel and be a true member of the team. Even though he's probably going to spend most of, if not all of the game standing on the sideline, he gets to go through the experience of getting dressed and running out of that tunnel and participating in the game. And I watched this and I just thought, what a remarkable lesson that this is for people. Seriously, the biggest mistake I see people make is they try something, like they have a goal and they want to step towards that goal. And if it doesn't work instantly and immediately and smoothly, they abandon it if it's not working. And then they stop pursuing this goal. And it really is so incredibly important that you understand when I'm working towards something that's meaningful to me, when I want to accomplish something great, I have to accept that it might take a long time for me to get there. I have to accept that it might take more blood, more sweat, and more tears in order for me to get there. And you just have to put that stuff aside and just keep working at it and keep working at it and keep working at it. I honestly believe the two most powerful words in all of the English language when you put them together is keep going. The best lesson you can have is no matter what, in the face of adversity, when you're facing really hard things, the most important lesson you can have is if I keep going. There's a rapper whose name is Ludacris. For a long time, he was a rapper and nobody knew who he was. Nobody had any idea who he was. And then he released this song. This is in the late 90s, early 2000s. He released this song that became a big hit and made him really successful. And most people are probably familiar with Ludacris because he's been in the Fast and Furious movie series a lot. But for a long time, he was just a really successful rapper. And somebody interviewed him about what it was like to become a success. And he said, it felt like I was pushing on a wall for many years. It felt like I was just pushing on a wall and the wall didn't move. Like I just pushed on it, and the wall didn't move. And then eventually I pushed on it, the wall started moving. And he said, the biggest lesson I can give people is keep pushing on the wall, because if you push hard enough, the wall will eventually move. If you push hard enough for long enough, the wall will eventually move. And I think that's the lesson we have to take here. It's very often we just start pushing on the wall and the wall doesn't move, we give up. We're like, oh, maybe it's not for me, or maybe I can't do it, or maybe those people who doubted me were right. But actually what you have to do is just keep pushing on the wall. And that's the lesson I want you to get from Kurt's story. That's the lesson I want you to get from Ludacris' story. And that's what I want you to know. Whatever you're pursuing, it might take everything you have, including your patience. But patience is a really important quality to accomplishing any goal, because patience allows you to keep going. So I want you guys to think about who in your life do you know, who in your life have you ever observed that demonstrated a high level of patience that helped them become really, really successful? Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for listening to this message. And please do me a huge favor. I'd really love it if you could share this podcast with at least one person that you think could benefit from this message today. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to this podcast, or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Rate this podcast, leave feedback for this podcast, and I will see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions for their everyday lives, and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments, where every day I share the lessons that I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today, I want to talk to you about patience. I want to talk to you about determination. Oftentimes we think about patience as like just sitting still and waiting for things to happen. But actually, that's not what patience is. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you were willing to not give up no matter what in pursuit of that goal? Have you ever wanted so badly that stopping the pursuit of achieving it is just absolutely positively unheard of? Have you ever wanted something so badly that you could wait years or even decades before you accomplished that dream? Because that's actually where patience comes into play. Like, oftentimes we will do a thing, we'll perform a task. Like in my business, people will build a website, and then they expect a bunch of clients to show up and start calling them. And if that doesn't happen, they build a website and they expect to have a full therapy practice in month one. And if that doesn't happen, they feel like giving up because it's not working. But any great achievement requires great effort and determination. And that is why patience is such an unbelievable asset, because it allows you to keep working towards a task until you accomplish the goal. I often think about Thomas Edison when it comes to patience. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, he had such a miserable job. Think about this. He had these glass tubes, and he would fill them with different gas, different elements, different things, trying to invent this light bulb. And every time he would flip a switch, and the combination of chemicals and the combination of elements just wasn't right, and the glass would explode. He did that for thousands and thousands and thousands of iterations of the light bulb. He would fill this glass tube with elements and chemicals and different things, flip the switch, and then it would explode. And people would ask Thomas Edison, how do you do that? And he would say, because one day I'm going to flip the switch and it's going to light up the world. And sure enough, he figured it out. He flipped the switch, and then one day the light worked. And now we all get to utilize the invention that Thomas Edison created. But imagine if he didn't have patience. Imagine if he didn't have determination. Imagine if he didn't have focus. He would have given up somewhere along the way. Eventually, you just feel like quitting because things aren't working in your way when you don't have determination, when you don't have patience. To me, patience and determination are the same thing. They're the same element. You can't have one without the other. And so often people try to just immediately experience success. We live in a culture of immediate satisfaction. Think about how patience used to show up in our lives. I would want a video, and I would go to Blockbuster Video, and I would wait until the video I wanted was there. Because oftentimes the video you wanted was gone, and some really nice person working at Blockbuster would go look in the computer and they'd say, oh, somebody's going to return it today. And you just wait until somebody came and returned it. Now, any video we want, we expect to immediately be able to have access to it via the internet or Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But the world hasn't always been so immediately gratifying. And I think that's okay, by the way. I don't mean to sound like the old person saying things like, oh, back in my day, da-da-da. But what I will say is we're losing our ability to be patient. We're losing our ability to be determined. We're losing our ability to be focused. And we're starting to forget that accomplishing great things requires determination, requires persistence, and those things require patience. It's such an important skill. It's such an important attribute that I want you guys to practice it. I want you to always remember that it takes everything you have to accomplish a goal, even when it's hard. Even when the obstacles seem insurmountable. even when it seems really, really challenging. And I want you to think about Thomas Edison and what could you learn from Thomas Edison if you were to put patience in your life. So thanks so much for being here today. Thanks for listening. Please, please, please do me a huge favor. And I'd love it if you would share this podcast with at least one person you think that could benefit from this message today. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts where you can leave feedback. You can rate this podcast. You can subscribe, leave feedback, and rate this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And I will see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives and worked with tens of thousands of clients on my own. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today I want to tell you the key that's going to make you successful in any endeavor that you're going to take on. I'm going to actually share with you the number one thing you need to know and you need to remember to be successful in any project that you want to work on. But first, I want to tell you the big mistake that most people make. Most people would identify with being an over planner, like an overthinker. And when they're starting to work on something, they spend so much time planning and so much time pre-thinking about the project or about the adventure or about the endeavor that they're going to embark on that they actually never take action. It causes kind of a psychosis where we just spend all of your time thinking and all of your time planning. And then what happens is once you start putting the plan in motion, when you don't get an immediate response that you're going to be successful, when you don't get an immediate response that clues you in everything's going to work, then you lose momentum, you give up on the dream, and then go pursue something else. But here's the phrase I want you to remember. Here's the key that I want you to have in order to be successful. Remember this phrase: take action, be patient. So we have to be action-oriented, and we have to be able to say, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to enact my plan, I'm going to pursue that goal, I'm going to go after that thing. But once you do, then be patient on the results. And I'm going to give you an example. I remember going to graduate school and I was learning to be a psychotherapist. It was so much fun and so amazing. And I wanted to change lives. I wanted to be a clinician and change lives. And over time of working with clients, my ambitions shifted. Instead of just working with clients, I began to want to train and I began to want to make a difference in the lives of clinicians. A little side note, I practice something called solution-focused brief therapy, and there was a lot of material out, books and training resources and videos and things like that related to the solution-focused approach. And I thought that I could say things in a different way and I could add to the library of training material available in solution-focused brief therapy. So my ambition shifted from wanting to run a full therapy practice to I wanted to be someone that was giving keynote addresses, and I wanted to be someone that was traveling and lecturing, and I wanted to make a difference in the field itself. It would be foolhardy if I thought I could just jump in and on day one be someone that people would hire and do a keynote. Like the very first lecture I ever did was in 2008, right? It was the very first lecture I ever did. I went to a conference and delivered a lecture about solution-focused brief therapy in 2008. It would be unusual if I would think immediately I'm going to be someone that people would hire to do keynotes and things like that. So that was the take action part. I got an opportunity to speak at a conference and I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel prepared, but you take action, right? The guy who runs Virgin Mobile, I can't remember his name, Richard Branson, I think is his name actually. He always says, say yes and then figure it out. So in 2008, when I got the opportunity to deliver a workshop at a conference, I said yes. But then I started being patient and I started building my speaking career brick by brick. I started building my speaking career one step at a time. And before I knew it, I was taking incremental steps towards being someone that was recognized as a leader in this field, and then ultimately being hired to give lectures and ultimately being hired to deliver trainings and do keynotes and do all kinds of things. And everything kind of culminated in 2019 and going into 2020, my training organization became the largest training organization in this field. We do well over, 7 figures a year, and we teach tens of thousands of counselors every year, teach them how to use solution-focused brief therapy in the way that we do it. We publish research. Our organization has grown, but it didn't happen overnight. It happened because I took action and then built my career brick by brick, step by step. So that's what you have to do. So many people spend so much of their time and energy in the planning that it actually causes a bit of psychosis. But I want you guys to remember this very simple phrase: take action, be patient, because that's how you build things, step by step, brick by brick. So once again, guys, thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me. And if you wouldn't mind, do me a huge favor and share this podcast with at least one person that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe, where you can leave feedback, where you could rate this podcast. And in fact, go wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, rate this podcast, and leave feedback. And I will see you on Monday.